It's finally here. Well, I say finally, I only ordered this on Friday. It is now Wednesday, so we've got a completely different video in store for you guys today. Way out of the scope of what we normally do on this channel. Today, we're going to be talking about how to get started with vlogging, what sort of gear you need to begin video editing, and to try and sort of clarify a lot of the obscurity and a lot of the overwhelming information that's out there on the internet that can sort of dishearten a lot of people who might be aspiring to start their own YouTube channel in 2025 and to create their own content. So, the simplest way that I can really try to describe this without putting you off and without making it over convoluted is, where is the... I literally can't even see the joint in this cardboard box. Am I opening this the right way? I had it upside down. And I'm trying to teach you guys how to build a video editing machine. I can't even open a bloody cardboard box. Genius! So, how much should you spend? And what sort of gear do you need? Well, to be honest with you, you can just start with a basic phone, right? You can start with an Apple, an iPhone, an Android, a Samsung, whatever's at your disposal. And you can use a free software like CapCut. It definitely helps you to explore a new world of vlogging and what the possibilities actually are. Now, there are some limitations and some advantages just to using your phone. And a lot of the vloggers that I see, especially the older expats who aren't too tech savvy, that's probably all they really use. Or maybe they have some kind of laptop where they just stitch some clips together, hit the render button, and then export that to YouTube. So I think the primary piece of information here is to know what sort of video formats you're going to be working with. Now, across the board, hands down, I can tell you right now that your iPhone or your Samsung, your Canon, your Nikon, your Sony, doesn't matter what camera you have, the generic video formats are H.265 and H.264. So that's a codec that when you transfer the file from whatever device you filmed on to your computer, that's how your computer is going to receive and interpret that information. So that's the codec, that's the readback that the computer gets for your file. Now, before going too far, there are three main companies. You've got Nvidia, and you have AMD, and then of course you have famously Intel. Now, up until now, AMD and Nvidia never supported those codecs natively. So you either had to convert that file or that clip of your vlog into some kind of proxy if you wanted it to work quickly, if you wanted to be able to scrub through the timeline, play it back without any hitching or stuttering. You would want to convert that into a proxy media file and then export it into your favorite editing software. Now, Intel was the only one since I believe it's the 11th generation processors. They started to include an iGPU, which is an integrated graphics card that had support for those file formats, for those codecs that I mentioned earlier, H.264 and H.265. So you didn't even need an expensive graphics card. You could go completely without just by buying the correct chip. You could put that right into your computer, right into your motherboard, and it would just blast through any work format when it came to media encoding. So anything that you would export from your Canon, your Nikon, your iPhone, or your Samsung would just work in your editing software, and it would work like a breeze too. No hitching, no stuttering. So that's the upper hand that Intel has always had over the other companies. And they've just recently started making their own discrete GPUs. So a discrete GPU is something that's separate to the CPU, to the processor. So this is a graphics card, but inside one of these is also a little graphics card. And believe it or not, these are actually more powerful. Up until this most recent series, this was more powerful than any of this could ever possibly deliver you at a fraction of the price. So what am I getting at is you don't need a lot of system to get a lot of bang for your buck. So that's what I want to point out in the first place. And knowing what to look for, especially on your Intel processor, is very, very important because the brand names can be very confusing. So 11th gen was 11600K, 11700K, and the 11900K. So your i5, your i7, and your i9. And that just transponded every generation up. So the 12th generation would be the 12,000 series. and 12700K, 12900K for the i9. As you can see, this is an i7 right here, and I have an i5 behind me right there, which is a 12400. So what does all this mean? Well, to give you the most basic answer is you want the part number that has a GPU. So if you see this i5 12400F or 12400F, basically anything that's after the number that doesn't have a single K will not give you an integrated processor. Neither of these processors right here have an integrated graphics card, which means that any file, if you're using these processors alone in your computer, any file that you upload from your camera or from your phones will not natively support this media codec. It won't render this video very well. So you need, if you're looking for an Intel processor, you need something that just has the K, I don't know if I can, that just has the K on the end of it, whether it's an i5, an i7, or an i9, all of those integrated graphics cards will actually perform identically despite the tier of CPU that you have. So if you have an i5, which is a lower tier with fewer cores, or an i9, which I actually don't have right now, the iGPU is exactly the same through the whole tier. So there's no need to spend $1,000 on an i9 when you can spend $250 to $300 on an i5, like a 12600K. Just remember, you have to have that K. If it's got a KF or any other letter or number after it, or if it's got no letter after the actual number, like the 12400F, it doesn't have a iGPU. So you just want a K at the end of your model number, and you can rest assured that you have that graphics integrated in the CPU. You pop it into your computer and you're good to go. So there is absolutely no need to be spending the amount of money that I spent on this card. Now, why did I get this? Well, one, it's a multi-purpose card. First of all, I want to preface this by saying that I'm by no means a professional video editor, as you can probably see from these videos and from this channel. We're not even monetized. So I would suggest, if you're starting out, definitely don't go spending the money on this unless it is a multi-purpose thing. So I use this for my flight simulator, I use this for my CAD software, for my 3D modeling, and for architecture, for rendering. So for me, this is more than a one-use case. So for you guys out there, I would honestly suggest with starting with your phones. Now, what's the limitation with the phone? Well, one is storage space. So you're going to have a finite number of storage space as opposed to running something like a PC where you can have multiple NVMe's or SSDs hard drives installed. So if you get yourself something like this, a fairly inexpensive 1 terabyte hard drive, you put that into your computer and you've automatically got at least twice the amount of storage than what a iPhone 15 Pro Max would have, which I think they cap out about 512 gigabytes. Now, the other issue with editing on your phone is, of course, the screen size. I mean, this isn't really a lot to work with, and if you're trying to edit and fine-tune certain clips, cut things down, add special effects or text, this can get pretty time-consuming, and also navigating your files and folders can be a bit of a nightmare because it's just hard to organize yourself on your phone and source all the files and clips that you might have recorded. So that's another big advantage to the PC. So maybe we should show them exactly what we're talking about and how a computer gets put together. Let's get it. Oh, this thing's heavy. Oh my God. Now, if this looks overwhelming and a little bit insane, well, that's because it is. But this is overkill. This is absolutely overkill. You do not need to do this. This is just me being, well, me. This is a PC. This big box is the case. Now, just for you guys who want the purest, simplest, most basic way to assemble a computer that you're going to need, nothing like this, you're going to need the RAM. I've got 4 sticks, you only need 2. They come in pairs, by the way, so you get 2 sticks of RAM in each kit. You can get them in 4s as well, but just for simplicity, we'll stick with 2. It's much easier to get running. So you've got the RAM, you've got the motherboard here, which is this, well, motherboard right there. Your CPU goes there, the cooler goes on top, the power supply goes in the power supply compartment, wherever that is, which mine is That's your power supply there, your cable connecting to there. So that just gets screwed into your case. All these plugs connect to your motherboard. You have some fans. I have 12. You do not need 12. You might only need like 2 or 3 at best.
So why did you have 12?
For cooling capacity. So you want cool air to come into the case and you want the hot air to get out of the case. That's as far as we need to take that. So you've got your processor, you've got your RAM, you've got your power supply, you've got your cooler, your motherboard, and a few fans to bring in cool air and get rid of the hot air. That's literally the basics of a PC. Nothing more, nothing less. Sorry, and of course the hard drive for your storage. Now, this, I believe, has 4 hard drive slots. So you can potentially put, well, you get terabytes of storage. You know where I'm going with this, right? Compare this to a phone, you start to see where the limitations come from just using this, right? So if you are a channel that is maybe just recently got monetized and you are starting to make money off of it, then I would strongly suggest upgrading to a PC. You're going to get much better organizability and file management. You'll be able to store a lot more images, clips, videos on your hard drives in the PC. So you'll be able to have like a register and a cache of everything that you've created. And if you have a nice big monitor with a mouse and a keyboard, your editing workflow is going to be 5-10 times faster than what it would be on a phone. It's going to be a lot more productive, much more productive. So you absolutely don't need to spend big money. And what kind of editing software is there? Well, you don't have to pay for most of it. CapCut is free, DaVinci Resolve is free, Premiere Pro, I believe, has a monthly subscription now, but that's if you're using, you can get it on Windows, but that's if you're using Mac. I think mostly Mac people use Premiere Pro. And if you're a Mac user, forget everything I've said because none of this applies to you. You buy a Mac, you plug it in, and everything just works within its own system. And that's some of the drawbacks. You're forced into the Apple platform and you're forced into their way of working. Now, if you like that, it works for a lot of people. That's absolutely fine, but Mac's not for me because it does have its limitations. And some of the things that they impose that you need to do and that you need to use, I'm personally not a fan of, and I find you get a lot more flexibility from a PC. So that's the way that I would go if I was somebody starting out, getting into video editing, getting into PC building. So I think that's about it from me, guys. If I've completely made an ass of myself and I haven't explained anything properly, if there's anything else that you'd like to know that I've missed, just make sure you leave a comment in the comments section below. Leave a like and a subscribe. We'd really, really appreciate it. I know this was completely different to what we normally do, but I'm hoping that it's something that helps you guys get started. If you do feel a bit intimidated or if you do feel like it's not something that you'd be able to do, reach out, ask a question, send me a message, and I'll do my best to get back to you as quickly as I can. The next video is going to be about our backyard as well, so stay tuned if you're keen to see that. A lot of progress being done there. And hopefully we can get there this year as well so we can do some more videography and show you how everything's been going. So guys, thanks for joining the journey and castaway couple. See you guys.